The Las Vegas Raiders are making moves that have fans talking. It looks like the team is seriously thinking about drafting a new quarterback. Recently, the Raiders have met face-to-face with several young quarterbacks. This isn't just casual interest. They're flying these players in, watching them closely at All-Star games, and sitting down for real conversations. One name that stands out is Shedeur Sanders from Colorado. He's one of the top quarterbacks in this year's draft, and many experts believe he could be picked in the top 10. Some even say he might go in the top 7 or 8. And guess what? He's heading to Las Vegas for a visit with the Raiders. That's a big sign. So, what does this mean? The Raiders could be planning something big. Maybe they want to draft a quarterback high, or maybe they're thinking about trading back and getting value elsewhere. Either way, it shows the team is open to bold moves. Before listening to the latest news, subscribe to the channel, like it, and don't forget to press the bell icon. Let's move on to the new news. Now, let's talk about another possible move. Some reports say that Colton Miller might be traded. That sounds shocking, but in the NFL, anything can happen. The Raiders are also looking at other talented players who could be available when they pick at number 6. When the Raiders traded for Geno Smith, they made one thing clear. This team wants to win right now. They're not just thinking about the future. They want players who are ready to help win games this season. And if someone isn't on board with that plan, whether it's a coach or a player, they might not be sticking around. We already saw that when Jack Jones was released. At the same time, players who work hard and show they care about the team are being rewarded. Isaiah Pola-Mao, for example, earned a new contract because of his great attitude and strong effort. Max Crosby is another one, a true leader who got a big extension because of his dedication. And even though Geno Smith was brought in as the starting quarterback, his contract tells an interesting story. It's really more like a one-year deal. If things don't work out, the team can move on easily next year. This could mean that the Raiders are thinking smart. Maybe they'll take the best player available at pick 6. Or maybe in the second round, if a talented quarterback drops, they'll make their move. Players like Jalen Milroe are already being mentioned. There's a lot of talk about quarterbacks with high potential in this year's draft, and the Las Vegas Raiders are keeping a close eye on all of them. Guys like Shedeur Sanders bring something special. He's not perfect, but his strength, movement, and decision-making make him one of the most exciting prospects available. Scouts say his best football is still ahead of him, and that makes teams pay attention. Now, Shedeur isn't the only one. There are other young quarterbacks with big upside. Names like Will Howard and Quinn Ewers have been tossed around too. Some say they could have benefited from another year in college, but the truth is their raw talent still makes them very interesting picks, especially in the second round. So what does this mean for the Raiders? It means options. A lot of them. If the Raiders want to grab a young QB with serious potential, they may not even need to use their first-round pick. One of these rising talents could fall into their hands in the second round, and that could be a smart, low-risk, high-reward move. But there's another angle here, a smart business move. It's possible the Raiders are showcasing their number 6 overall pick to get another team to trade up. Teams desperate for a quarterback might be willing to give up valuable assets just to move ahead in the draft. That's a strategy that could give the Raiders more picks, more power, and more control. Think about it. If a team like New Orleans is worried about their quarterback situation, with rumors of injuries and contract issues, they might be looking to move up. And if they believe the Raiders are eyeing the same quarterbacks, that creates urgency. The Raiders know this. They're playing it cool, but behind the scenes, there's a chance they're setting the board for a smart trade. The goal? Either land a talented young quarterback or build a stronger roster by collecting more picks. Either way, the Raiders are in a powerful position, and they're not wasting it. The Las Vegas Raiders might be setting up for one of the smartest moves in the draft. Imagine this. The Raiders have the 6th overall pick, and several teams behind them are desperate for a quarterback. That gives the Raiders the upper hand. If they trade down just a few spots, let's say to pick number 9, and pick up an extra third-rounder in the deal, they could still land one of the top players in the class. That means while other teams reach for quarterbacks, the Raiders could quietly grab a star, maybe a top receiver, a lockdown corner, or even a dominant tight end. That's just one option. The other? Drafting a quarterback themselves. Let's be honest, the Raiders need a long-term answer at quarterback. Yes, they just added Geno Smith, but if someone like Shedeur Sanders is available, how do you pass that up? Think about what C.J. Stroud did in Houston. In just one season, he turned that team into a playoff contender. What if Sanders could do the same for the Raiders? Even if he doesn't start right away, he could sit behind Geno, learn the system, and be ready to take over when the time is right. And don't forget, if Sanders proves he's ready, he could start this season. It's not impossible. We've seen similar situations before, where a young QB surprises everyone and takes control early. That kind of move would set the Raiders up for success, not just this year, but for years to come. Now, let's shift the focus to another big question. What's going on with Colton Miller? There's been a lot of talk that Miller could become a trade candidate. He's a top-tier offensive tackle and would attract serious attention from teams across the league if the Raiders made him available. He's under contract for now, but he's expected to be one of the most wanted free agents by 2026. If the Raiders are thinking long-term, they might consider making a move early, either by giving him a new contract or exploring trade offers while his value is sky-high. This is where things get interesting. The Raiders are clearly planning for both now and the future, and every choice they make will shape this team's path forward. Let's talk about something serious. Colton Miller and the growing buzz around his future with the Raiders. Lately, rumors have started floating around that Miller could be on the trade block. Some voices in the media have even suggested the Raiders might be open to dealing him if the right offer comes along. But let's be real, that would be a huge mistake. Colton Miller isn't just another guy on the line. He's been a rock for the Raiders at left tackle for years, and even if he's not talked about like a superstar, his value is undeniable. In fact, if he ever hit free agency, there'd be a long line of teams knocking on his door, hoping to sign him. Sure, the Raiders could get a late first-round pick if they moved him, but is it worth it? Swapping a proven, reliable left tackle for a question mark in the draft. That's a dangerous game, especially when finding top-tier offensive linemen is harder than ever. Think about it. Throughout Miller's time with the Raiders, the team has never fully figured out the right tackle position. And if that's been a struggle, imagine how tough it would be to replace your best guy on the left side. Good tackles don't just fall from the sky. Even teams that make deep playoff runs, teams with elite quarterbacks, often can't solve their tackle issues. Yet, here's the Raiders, with a player who's battled through injuries, stayed consistent, and still delivered strong performances. Yes, Miller's dealt with a shoulder injury in the past, but last season, he fought through it, played nearly every game, and even went under the knife afterward to get it fixed. That shows commitment, toughness, and leadership. The truth is, Miller's current deal is also one of the most team-friendly contracts out there for a starting left tackle. That makes him even more valuable, not just on the field, but for the front office when planning the cap. Let's be clear, the Raiders would be making a major misstep if they let Colton Miller go. He's exactly the kind of player you build around, not the kind you give away. Colton Miller is one of the most underrated players on the Raiders roster, and it's about time people started recognizing that. When he signed his current deal a few years back, it seemed like a fair price at the time. But fast forward to now, and that contract is looking like a steal. He's set to make around $15 million this year, a serious bargain for a starting left tackle in today's NFL. In fact, when you line up all the offensive tackles by salary, Miller doesn't even crack the top 15. That's wild, considering his impact on the field. To be clear, Miller is not the 18th best tackle in the league, not even close. If you've watched him over the past few seasons, you know he's much better than his paycheck suggests. You could argue he belongs somewhere near the top 10, maybe even higher depending on who you ask. Some people like to bring up names like Laramie Tunsil or Andrew Thomas. But here's the thing. While those guys have flashed brilliance, Colton Miller has been consistent, tough, and reliable. And that's what the Raiders need. Now, let's say hypothetically, the Raiders did move Miller and somehow ended up with a late first-round pick. What then? Are we confident in replacing a top-tier left tackle with a rookie, especially when this year's draft class doesn't have many surefire offensive line stars? That's a dangerous bet. In fact, history shows us something pretty clear. When the Raiders pass up top-tier offensive linemen in the draft, it usually comes back to haunt them. Players like Olufashanu, Darnell Wright, and Christian Darrisaw were all there for the taking in recent years, and they're all making huge impacts today. Miss on those types of talents, and you're stuck patching up holes for years. And let's be honest, if the Raiders start winning like we hope, they won't be picking high in the draft anymore. That means fewer chances to grab elite tackles. So, why give away the one you already have? The bottom line? Trading Colton Miller to chase a Super Bowl makes zero sense. You win championships by protecting your quarterback, not by gambling with your offensive line. The Raiders should lock Miller in for the long haul and keep building around him. And as for what's next, well, there's some noise around Aiden O'Connell, too. There's a lot of quiet noise building around Aiden O'Connell. And honestly, it wouldn't be shocking if the Raiders explored trading him. Now, let's be clear. O'Connell has real talent. He's accurate, poised in the pocket, and can make all the throws. But sometimes, even a solid quarterback just doesn't fit the system being built around him. That might be the case in Las Vegas. Reports have hinted, not confirmed, that the Raiders could be open to moving O'Connell. It's not official, but the idea is out there, and it actually makes sense when you look deeper. O'Connell wasn't drafted for this new offensive vision. If the Raiders are building around a guy like Geno Smith and potentially handing the future keys to a coach like Chip Kelly down the line, then O'Connell simply doesn't match that style. Chip Kelly thrives on speed, mobility, and high-tempo plays, and that's not O'Connell's game. Right now, the Raiders need to prepare for long-term success, not just a short-term backup plan. So if there's a team out there willing to offer even a fifth-round pick, the Raiders should seriously consider it. After all, O'Connell was a fourth-round pick himself, and he's likely exceeded that value already. Trading him now could give the Raiders flexibility and an extra draft chip. Sure, he could remain a quality backup this season, but let's be honest, this entire offense is going to be tailored for Geno Smith. If O'Connell steps in, he'll be working in a scheme that wasn't built for his strengths. That's a tough spot for any quarterback. With 2 years left on his rookie deal, there's still time to get value for O'Connell. He's under contract, he's affordable, and teams around the league know he has potential. That's a rare mix. So, while nothing is certain, don't be surprised if the Raiders quietly move Aiden O'Connell before the season starts. Not because he's not good, but because he might be better off somewhere else. And, more importantly, because Las Vegas has its eyes on building something new, something bold. The Las Vegas Raiders have some big decisions ahead, and one of the most intriguing situations still revolves around quarterback Aiden O'Connell. Let's face it, the Raiders don't want a quarterback controversy. They don't want fans or the locker room wondering, should we try O'Connell if things go south with our starter? That kind of distraction can derail progress. So, while Aiden has potential, it might make more sense for him to get a fresh start elsewhere, especially with a team looking for their next long-term option. Maybe he develops under a coach like Sean McVay and turns into a starter later. It's a gamble, but the upside is real. As for the Raiders, their direction seems clear now. Geno Smith is the quarterback for the moment, and the franchise appears ready to invest in developing someone new, someone hand-picked for this new era in Vegas. O'Connell. He just might not be part of that vision anymore, but that's not the only story heating up in the desert. Las Vegas is showing interest in adding serious firepower at wide receiver, and that's where things get really exciting. Reports say Arizona standout Teteroa McMillan is on the Raiders' radar, and it's not just Vegas. Half the league seems to want him. His talent is undeniable, and scouts are raving. One executive even called him a true star who won't last long on draft day. The Raiders' interest in a player like McMillan says a lot. It means they know what they're missing. Explosiveness, big play ability, someone who can take a short pass and turn it into a touchdown. Right now, they don't have that kind of threat. Sure, Jakobi Meyers is reliable. He's smart, tough, and dependable. But let's be honest, he's not the kind of receiver who'll strike fear into defenders every time he touches the ball. He's a great number 2 option, not a game breaker. And that's okay. Every good team needs a guy like him. But if the Raiders want to keep up with the league's best, they need someone electric, a player who can flip a game with one move. That's what this draft could deliver, and McMillan might be that guy. So don't be surprised if the Raiders go heavy on offensive weapons in the draft. The message is clear. They're not just rebuilding. They're reloading with the future in mind. The Las Vegas Raiders are in a critical moment. They've got solid pieces in place, but now it's time to take the next big step. And that step? It starts with adding a true game-changing wide receiver. Jakobi Meyers has been reliable. He's sharp, crafty, and consistent, the kind of player every team needs. But he's not the kind of receiver who takes over games. He doesn't stretch defenses. He doesn't flip the field with one play. He's a perfect number 2, just like players such as Amari Cooper once were, or Jerry Jeudy. Great talents, but not the ones who keep defensive coordinators up at night. The Raiders need that kind of star. They need someone who can do what Justin Jefferson does, or CeeDee Lamb, or Jamar Chase. Players who don't just catch passes, they explode. They turn short throws into touchdowns. They shift momentum with a single move. Names like Malik Neighbors, Travis Hunter, and even Kyle Williams come to mind. These are receivers who play at full throttle, guys with elite speed, elite moves, and elite production. If Las Vegas wants to turn the corner offensively, that's the kind of player they must target. And while a player like Tetairoa McMillan has strong tools, the question remains, is he the difference maker this team needs? The kind who transforms an offense? Some scouts believe Kyle Williams might actually be that guy. He's quick, versatile, and rising fast. Don't be surprised if he's one of the top receivers taken early, no matter what the mock drafts say. And that's the point. This time of year, rumors fly and rankings shift, but smart teams trust their evaluations. The Raiders must do the same. Find the guy who fits their vision, not just the hype, because this offense can't wait. Trey Tucker has potential, but he hasn't broken through yet. If he eventually does, great. But the Raiders need someone who can deliver right now, someone who forces defenses to plan differently. It's clear a dominant wide receiver is more urgent than an elite running back at this stage. Vegas needs that spark, that superstar who can shift the entire feel of the offense. And with the draft just days away, big changes are coming. In 2 weeks, this Raiders roster could look very different, and, hopefully, a lot more dangerous.